Hello, everybody. It's Saturday afternoon in Portland, Oregon, 3 o'clock. It's amazing and beautiful out there. I have a handsome guest calling in or chiming in today from Southern California. But before we get started with him, I want to thank my sponsors at 5-Star Guitars for being there for the beginning. If you've got this big fat stimulus check and you're looking for places to spend it, go online to www.5starguitars.com and check out their gear. We have no sales tax in Oregon, so you can order these guitars and save yourself a bunch of money. They've got a killer selection of everything from the best Paul Reed Smiths to some great Les Pauls and SGs. They do repairs, and if you're interested and you want to get some lessons, even if you do virtual lessons, you can get lessons from fantastic guitar pros like Jennifer Batten, who is just around the corner from up here in Portland. So go to www.5starguitars.com, check out their gear, buy you some guitars, tell them I sent you, and tell them All Access Live supports them as they have supported me. All right, folks. Now, what I mentioned about this show that's really interesting is what I love to do is if I'm playing backstage or if I'm playing a show and I get to catch up with my buddies backstage, I realize that it's more fun if we get to share kind of a peek behind the scenes at somebody that you may not get to, that close to. I did one show with this gentleman a couple of years ago in Hollywood, and I was floored. The first time that we ever played any music together, we walked on stage and did this thing together. I'd seen him play. He's got an amazing voice, but he also has a pretty remarkable story. And we're going to get started right now with my friend in Hollywood, Jude CROSSEN. Thank you for being here, buddy.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here. What was the song or songs that we jammed on that night?
We did Maybe I'm Amazed at the Wings tune, which you just slayed the McCartney. Right. And then we did the Simple Minds tune, Alive and Kicking.
Actually, that was one of my favorites at that show, the Soundcheck Live thing that happens regularly. That was one of my favorites.
Mine too.
I had a blast doing that. I forgot that was you, because we're always just like, we show up, everyone's told what, their parts are going to play. Yeah. And then you show up, you go, oh, are you doing it with me? Okay, here we go. Get on stage, do it. And then you have to jump off because there's another group of 6 people coming out to do. So that was one of my favorite. I'm so glad I got to do Alive and Kicking by Simple Minds because I love that song.
You killed them.
I had a blast doing it.
So here, I'm gonna raise a glass to Steve Ferlazzo for curating the event, pairing us together. I appreciate that. And props to my pal Glenn Sobel for always being there, kind of as one of the house scrummers for that main gig. The coolest thing about that, originally, Steve had talked to me about coming down to do one of those shows that Nuno was doing before. And the fact that it's always on a Wednesday at Soundcheck Live was tough, because if I'm in LA, I'm usually playing on a Friday or Saturday night, and so to come in early, it depends on whether or not I can structure the schedule. But for people that haven't been to Soundcheck Live in Hollywood, it's an amazing event. All these people come from all these different bands and different environments. And there's an echo. You might want to mute your playback, by the way, on the. Do you have it open on YouTube or something?
I hope not. Hang on.
Okay, no problem. If it does, no worries. But I was gonna say, if your camera's muted right now, but so all right, so the All Access or the Soundcheck Live thing. So Steve Ferlazzo, whose main gig is Avril Lavigne, he's the music director for her, but somehow he finds this crazy amount of time to put together all these people for a huge collection of music. In one night, you'll get 30 songs from every genre, and you're still muted, by the way. But I think in one night, or that night, if I remember right, Nuno got up and he did a Drama God set. And then you and I played the Wing song, Simple Minds. I saw Randy Cook playing with, I can't even remember. There's so many great nights, but if you look online, you look at Soundcheck Live in Hollywood on YouTube, you'll find like big, huge pros. And they've had, I think Billy Sheehan comes in and plays there every once in a while, and Steve Vai. And there was some big deal that I think the original guys from the Eat 'Em and Smile record were going to be in, David Lee Roth and Steve Vai and Sheehan and Bissonette. And then the word got out that they were doing this thing for free on a Wednesday night. and fire marshals came in and shut it all down. So but it's the coolest gig and it's free. I think they do it once a month now, once clubs come back open. And
yeah, it turned into once a month. It was, when I started, it was every Wednesday.
yeah.
And I don't know how Steve pulled that off, but he always did. And it was always professionally done, and made really easy for the guys that and gals that came in to play. But yeah, they've had a lot of big names, like Jackson Brown and Nancy Wilson from Heart. Who was the other big one? Nuno Bencourt from Extremes.
Right.
He's there a lot. Tons of, Johnny Depp came and played.
Of course. Yeah, he's great, man.
I wasn't there for that one. I wish I would have been because he was hanging out backstage, but he was there. Joe Perry from Aerosmith. So yeah, it's you know, when I started doing that show, I got asked by Derek Frank. Do you know Derek?
Okay. We just met. Yeah.
Yeah. Great bass player. He plays for Gwen Stefani, and I think Shania Twain. But he and I had done a few gigs just here and there around town, and he just kind of invited me to come down. Hey, you want to sing a song? Why don't you do this song? And it was okayed by Steve Ferlazzo and all that. And so I came down, and I had no idea what to expect. I just thought it was like a jam. I had no idea how professional it was.
Right.
And I just got there, and I remember being backstage, because right backstage, it's where everyone who has to go on, or even isn't going, are just hanging out and talking. So it's really small and really tight. And I just remember being like a wallflower, just like looking around and just feeling like, because I had been, and I posted this the next day. I posted this the next day about doing that first Soundcheck Live show. I said, I've been living in LA for about 15 years now, and I finally found my home.
Nice. Yeah.
And I was talking about that group, that scene. I felt like I found what I've been looking for ever since I moved out here. To people that understand me, people that do what I do, and love, the same styles of music that I love, and just, no one's getting paid to do that.
Right.
We're all there for the love of the music, and it's all because of Steve Ferlazzo. And
I love that, man. You can see it too. You can see that spirit, the energy, and the sort of passion for the music from all the performers that are up there. It was an honor for me to get to play that with you, man. And you mentioned being in LA for 15 years. So where are you from?
Okay. It's story time.
Sure.
It's let's see, born and raised in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. My parents are from Pittsburgh, but they moved out of Pittsburgh. So all my family is in Pittsburgh. Uncles, aunts, grandparents, all that. So that's where my family is from. I'm not from Pittsburgh, but so they moved to a little town called Warren, which is up north in Pennsylvania near Erie.
Okay.
And so born and raised in Pennsylvania, was the oldest of 4 kids. What else? Oh, when I was a kid, I wanted to be, before music, there was always music in the house.
Yeah.
My dad loved the Beatles, so there were always Beatles records playing. My mom was into musicals and always directing musicals and plays.
Really?
So I would get to go those at super, super early ages, like 5 and 6, being dragged to those things. And then learning to love musicals.
Okay.
So there's always music playing, whether it was musical theater playing on the record player, dating myself, and or Beatles records being played, or like Paul Simon records being played. So there's always music going on. But at that time, as a little boy, I wanted to be a cartoonist. That's what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Okay.
And I would draw the characters that I liked, or I'd make up my own. And then I would imitate voices that I would hear from my favorite cartoons. And so I, as a really young boy, I wanted to make the make my own cartoon with all my own characters, and I wanted to do all the voices, kind of like what Seth MacFarlane does now with Family Guy, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Mine wouldn't have been adult and dirty. I was thinking more like for kids.
Sure.
So, I was watching your podcast yesterday with Steve Ferlazzo, and he said, you guys mentioned me, which was very kind, but he said Jude is a chameleon when it comes to singing.
That's the truth.
And I think that's where that came from, that chameleon thing, because I was imitating all these different cartoon voices as a little boy and getting good at it.
Okay.
Yeah. All the while having this music in the background, not really thinking music's going to be my life. But I had it always, and even in the car rides with the family, always had the 70s AM pop, stations on. So that was all going in there and marinating. Growing up, when we would go back to Pittsburgh to visit uncles and aunts and all that, I had uncles that play guitar and were in bands and would sing. And so it was like this big family, like sing-along jam thing. So that was huge influence. So there was always music in the background, but I wanted to be a cartoonist. Okay. I wanted to do the voices. And then I got a little older. I was like about 9 or 10, and I got into comic books. And I wanted to be, the next Stan Lee. Yeah. I wanted to work for Marvel. So I started drawing comic books. I started drawing superheroes.
Okay.
And then being a child of the 70s, was it 1977? Star Wars came out.
Oh, yeah.
That had a huge influence on me. Then it was like, okay, forget cartoons, forget the comic books. I want to direct and I want to do visual effects, all because of George Lucas and Star Wars and all that, right?
Yeah.
That lasted a few months.
Okay.
And then I turned 11 and I started drawing superheroes less and I started drawing guitars more, in my little school notebook.
Sure, yeah.
Drawing phones, drawing musical notes, drawing pianos and all that stuff. And I think 11 was the age when I realized that I wanted to be a singer and I wanted to do music for life, because there was maybe some people who are my age and up will remember this show, late 70s, 78, 79, 80. There was a show called Solid Gold.
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay. And they would have
the
top performers of the day come and perform on the show. And the show was a little cheesy because they was always have dancers, doing goofy stuff in the background. But I remember seeing, and I didn't know who they were. I was only 11. I remember seeing Daryl Hall and John Oates.
Oh, wow.
Do a song on that show. And that was it. I remember I was at we were visiting friends, my family, we were visiting friends. I remember they had it on the TV at their house. I remember seeing it. I remember seeing them perform it. I remember thinking, I want to sing like that.
Nice.
They're soulful. I want to sing like that.
So
and I remember going home. I remember just driving home the whole time in the back seat in the car, just thinking, I know what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to sing and I want to be a musician.
Did you like the combination of Daryl and John's harmonies and the way that they presented that stuff? Or did you just feel like the energy that you got from their performance is really what grabbed you more than anything else?
I think it was like a combination of the energy and just, John Oates can sing, and I've seen him sing.
Yeah.
And he has, everybody calls him like the baritone of the group, but I've seen him do like this sick, like Smokey Robinson falsetto stuff.
Yeah.
He can sing.
Yeah.
But it was Daryl that really grabbed me as a singer, grabbed me for this whole vibe.
Sure.
It's
a front man.
Yeah. Cool. And I wanted to do that. I knew it. That's what I wanted to do. And so then I don't know where it came from, but my family had this old, like horrible, like you could pick it up with your hands, this old, horrible, cheesy, one finger organ from like the 60s sitting around the house. I don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
I'll have to ask my parents because I don't remember. So I took it up into my bedroom, and I would turn on the radio, and I would just pretend to play and sing, along with the songs, whatever I heard on the radio, and did the whole like, singing in the mirror with the brush handle, all that. And so, my parents saw that happening, and they got me some. I think they bought one of those two-tier organs.
Okay.
That you could have in a house.
Yeah, little Hammond.
And so they took me to organ lessons, which at the time I don't remember liking it at all, but I did want to keep playing an instrument and singing. And so I just started singing. And I got into music in elementary school, or not elementary school. It was middle school. I started taking up like the saxophone.
Okay.
With the school orchestra, and then in high school I was in choirs and played saxophone in the high school orchestra. Right before college, I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston.
Okay.
Right before that, I had a friend of the family who was this incredible piano player, singer. He was the guy that whoever was doing a musical in our town, they would hire him to be the MD. So he kind of pulled me aside and said, I'm going to teach you this summer before you go to college. I'm going to teach you how to comp. You should be able to look at a chord symbol at least, not completely read music, but you should be able to look at a chord symbol, know that's a G, know that's an F, know how to play it on the piano, and know how to comp and accompany yourself, because it's really going to be good for you as a singer up there, and you won't have to ask people to help you, and it's just going to be good for you overall as a musician. So,
wow, who was this that
just kind of like, his name was Eddie Cohey.
Okay,
he's not with us anymore, unfortunately, but I'm so glad he did that. I'm forever grateful.
Yeah, man.
Because I went to college, and my first semester, my first year there, I had vocalists, fellow vocalist students saying, hey, can you come to the practice room and play this song for me while I practice singing it? So, okay.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I started getting good at that. And then on the summer breaks from college, I would go back home and do these like lounge lizard gigs.
Yeah.
And so I would play in a bar and sing and play. And that really, those summers and just playing like every Friday night, every Saturday night, I got so much better at piano. I felt comfortable about it. I didn't have to look at the keys anymore, that kind of thing. So it really developed. And then I started thinking, well, I really want to play guitar though.
Hold on a sec. Before you go on to that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about, so you can,
like nonstop.
I love this stuff. No. What's really cool is that a lot of the people that watch the episodes of these, they may not be musicians, they're music fans. And so they picture you going out to college and you get the chops together to comp and accompany yourself. And then you go back to Pennsylvania. Talk about that process, because if you hadn't been doing gigs until this point, where do you develop the confidence to walk into a venue and say, hey man, I can do this. I want to play your event, play your show. Did you have that kind of ability to hustle at that point?
You're talking about the piano gigs?
Yeah.
I guess so. I think I started out, actually, I missed a part of my whole like history here, life history. Was it middle school? Right as I was going into middle school, my family moved to Delaware.
Okay.
So the whole family moved from Pennsylvania to Delaware. And that's where I started doing I went through high school in Delaware. And so that's where I started doing the piano gigs. And I think I when I started getting my first like teenage jobs, I think one of my first jobs was I was a host at like a local Mexican restaurant.
Okay.
And so I started feeling good about piano. And so I asked the owner, I was like, hey, what if on Friday nights I brought in my piano and played, would that be okay with you? And they were fine with it. And so I tried it out.
That's cool.
It wasn't any place kind of fancy or anything like that. It was just a place to have tacos, right?
But a killer way to hone your chops,
Yeah. And then there was this other gig where it was like a C place, and they said, yeah, sure, come down and, you know, try it out, and we'll see how it goes. So I lugged my piano down there, my keyboard. I say, okay, so where do you want me? In the Mexican place, they had me like in the dining room, right? And so people could see me and hear me. So the seafood place, I say, so where do you want me? With the diners, and they go, no, you're going to be in the lobby. Okay. So I set up in the lobby, and I'm looking around. It's this empty lobby. I can't see the diners from where I am, but all I'm singing to the entire gig and night across from me is a giant glass container full of the lobsters that they come and get from the kitchen.
Pretty captive audience, man.
And say, yeah. They were enjoying it, but I was always sad to see them go, like just one by one.
Oh,
so I had gigs like that where it was like, okay, no one's really listening to me.
Right.
I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
And I got better at it. And so then I felt confident. Then I went into like the fancier places.
Okay.
And said, look, I've played here, I've played here.
Yeah.
And, you know, I go to Berklee College of Music, blah, blah, blah.
Boom.
And I said, yeah, sure, come down, you know, do a night, we'll see how it goes. And it went really well. And so I had this regular gig doing that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And the reason I asked this is really cool. A lot of people that watch this maybe have kids, right, that have aspirations to go off and make a career in music. You are an instructor at one of the biggest music schools in the country right now. And, you know, when kids are coming in and you're teaching them the fundamentals of perfecting their craft, and a big part of this whole industry, as you know, is not just perfecting your voice, but it's also being able to communicate and navigate the business end of things, so that if you want to find your way to play music for people, man, it's not, you can't just walk in and say, I'm qualified to do this gig, hire me, right? You've got to somehow find a way to sell your wares, and whether it be recommended by somebody else or you walking in the door and selling yourself. It's always interesting to me to find out where people first develop the confidence to do that, you know, and if the lobsters were your first captive audience, you know, I mean, and it's a funny thing to laugh about, but if you think now about where you're at and then back to those days, I think, you know, if you're like me and a lot of other people, a lot of other musicians, you kind of forget about those formative years, you know, because you've done so many other things since. But if you put yourself back in the mindset of being back in that lobby where it's all about repetition and just doing your thing to perfect it for yourself and not for the lobsters, then there's magic in those first years, right? There really is. At least now. You might not have seen magic back then, but if you look back, you know, from now, it's kind of interesting. So anyway, that does answer my question. So now you're going back and you're doing lounge gigs.
I tell all my vocal students, you need to pick up an instrument. You just need to, because it's going to do for them what it did for me, you know. And then once I started playing piano, once I started playing guitar, I started writing songs. I never thought I was gonna be a songwriter.
Yeah.
You know, I just thought I was gonna be this big. When I was in college, going to Berklee, you know, this was like late '80s.
Okay.
So I just thought I was gonna be a pop star.
Sure.
And I'd have writers.
Yeah.
You know, write me my hits.
You, Richard Marx, and Michael Bolton. That's it, right?
Yeah, and whoever wrote for Rick Astley back then.
Right.
So that's what I thought, and then. I think I'm going to get off track here, but my point before I get off on that tangent, I was going to talk about. I tell all my students, you know, pick up an instrument. You don't have to be amazing at it. You're not. That's why you're studying voice, because you're going to be amazing at your voice. You just need to be able to comp on the guitar to get through like a 45-minute set. That's all you have to do. You need to comp on a piano. You know, they're not going there to hear you solo on your instrument. They want to hear you sing. So as long as you have that foundation of the instrument underneath you is just good enough. It's all about what you're singing. It's all about your performance, you know. Sure. The song that you're singing, you know, all that stuff, the emotion you want to get back. So I really hammer that in with all my students.
Good advice.
I think a lot more are starting to pick up instruments anyway, with the whole indie pop and indie R&B thing happening these days. But What was the
Can I
other
ask?
thing
Well, I was going to ask you about those formative years at Berkeley too. You mentioned going and doing the lounge gigs and kind of like working your way through live performance and really selling yourself there. I picture you in Berkeley. I know that I've got a lot of friends that have gone to school there that talk about it. Some make it all the way through, some don't. A lot of guys that have gone didn't feel like they ever made a connection with an ensemble there, a group of people that, it was kind of cliquish, right? So they
was?
couldn't get past the click. And it was difficult for them because they may have come as a big fish in a small pond to Berkeley, where they find out that these are the greatest musicians on the planet, and they're intimidated, and they're also kind of alienated. They feel like isolated. What was your experience there? When you went there, did you find it easy to get into a scene that you could actually do interactive music with these guys?
I definitely ended up having a clique. I was in one of those cliques that you're talking about. But there were cliques, definitely cliques. When I first got there, this is hard to believe. If anyone's ever seen me on stage and not talked to me in person, I've always had a shyness about me in person. I'm not that person that you see on stage. And I don't think I would want to be. I actually tried to be that person on stage one time in real life, and I just felt so obnoxious.
Sure.
And I just thought, okay, this is gross. I can't be that guy.
Yeah.
So I was super shy, uh, especially in college.
Okay.
It was the first time I'd ever been alone. I'd always been surrounded by my, family and
Right.
friends back home. It was
Yeah.
the first time I was ever alone. So I was in my little bubble and just trying to get through my first semester there and everything. But I made friends, and I started singing in classes and in, certain performances and all that around. And so that's when people, they'd hear me sing, and then they start talking to me because I wouldn't be the one that started the conversation. No
Sure.
way, not then.
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot better at it, in my old age, but no, I was painfully shy back then. So I think it took a few. I think it took a few semesters
Okay.
to really find my way at Berkeley, and then I had my friends, and then I had my group.
Did you have a band then at that point?
No,
Okay. You were just
no. Remember, because I was going to be like the solo pop star.
right.
That was
Right.
my
Yeah.
whole
Right.
all the way up until the very end. Right before I graduated, I was like, I'm going to be the pop star. I'm going to be the
Okay.
next. What was his name? Who's the guy I said earlier?
Let's see.
Oh, Rick Astley. Rick
Rick
Astley.
Astley. Right. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
gonna be the next Rick Astley and just have people write songs for me.
Yeah. Okay.
But that changed like right before, and I'll get to that in a minute. But that changed right before I graduated. So yeah, I found my clique. I did find I ended up getting in this. There was this big show that happened at the end of every semester, and it was for singers.
Okay.
And all the singers would audition, all the student singers, and all the best of the best would be in there. So I got in. I don't know. I can't remember when. It was my second or semester there, and there were all these awesome singers, students that were singers who were already had been doing that show, and so they had this, even if they didn't mean to, they had this attitude and air about them, like, who's this new guy?
Right. Yeah.
Right. And then not to toot my own horn, but I went out and sang, and then after that they were like, oh, he's actually pretty good.
He's legit. Yeah.
Right. So that, unfortunately, I had to go through
performed?
that and then be accepted into that clique.
Well, tell me about that performance. Do you remember what you sang?
And after that was fine. Oh, my first one, I think I did a Sting song.
Okay.
I think I did this because this is late 80s. So I
Yeah.
did it was one of his solo songs. I think it was We'll Be Together Tonight.
Okay.
I want to say it's We'll Be Together Tonight. And then yeah. And then I think I sang another one. I think it was a Billy Joel song. It was like
cool.
I think it wasn't a single. It was called All for Lena.
Okay. So it's like it's sort of a B-side, like
Yeah.
track,
It was like a really, like, for Billy Joel, it was like a nasty kind of rocker type song. So it was really fun to do.
Cool.
So I did that, and that's when things started turning around for me at Berklee, and people was like, oh, this guy can sing. And then they started talking to me. We became friends, but there were definitely cliques.
Yeah. When you, at that point, because you mentioned just right up until the end, things changed and you got, so you said there was a formative change in your desire to be the singer, the pop singer. So what happened at the end that kind of tripped that all up?
What happened was all through college, I started figuring out guitar. I had already figured out how to get by on piano.
Okay.
I felt really comfortable on piano, but I started figuring out guitar on my own. And I had one of my first dorm roommates was a guitarist, and he would show me like D, A, G. And then I started listening to, you know, songs by like U2 and Bruce Springsteen and REM, of the time. And I remember figuring out the song, like, oh my gosh, it's like 3 or 4 chords. I could do this.
Yeah.
It's just in my head, I was thinking there's so much more going on.
Right.
And I realized, oh, that's the production making me think that, there's like a million chords and it's really hard. So I started, learning a lot of U2 songs and Springsteen songs and REM songs. Because they were just really, they had the easy chord, it's like D, A, G,
right.
Or E minor to whatever. So I started figuring out through college.
Okay.
And then right around my last semester, gearing up for graduation. I mentioned earlier that I grew up listening and going to my mom's plays and musicals. So I was huge into musical theater.
Okay.
And I studied a lot and did a lot of musical theater through high school and college. So I was actually thinking, even though I loved rock and roll, I was thinking I'm going to graduate Berklee and I'm going to go to New York and try Broadway.
You bet.
That's what I was thinking. And I had a vocal teacher who was totally like backing me, like, yeah, you could do it. You could do it. So I just thought that was what I was going to do. Still like loving rock and roll though at the time. And so what changed was getting close to graduation time. And I had these friends who were starting an original band, and they were both singer-songwriters on their own right. And I think that they just said, we want you to be, it would be cool because, we'll have the 3 of us singing and there'll be harmonies and we could all like write, our own songs and then we'll all perform them. So it just seemed like a really fun, cool idea. And so after that night, I pulled out my guitar and started playing, and I started like just coming up with a song idea. And I'd never done that before. I was actually talking to possible managers before that happened, about being that Rick Astley guy. Like, so this is what I would do. I want to be a pop star and I want to have other people write for me. I was actually talking to people before they came to me about the band idea. And so I'm so glad I didn't become the next Rick Astley.
Yeah. You'd be Rickrolling everyone.
I would. I know. Yeah, my heart just wouldn't have been in it. So I realized, hey, I could do this. I could write a song because I figured out 3 chords. If the U2, Bruce Springsteen, REM, they can have hits with 3 chords. I could do this. Not to belittle songwriting, Oh,
right.
But I realized it can be done. And so I figured, okay, I'm going to get better at guitar. I'm going to get better at the songwriting. And I told my friends, yeah, let's do it. And I'm glad I did that. And so we stayed in Boston as the band.
Okay.
And I'm glad I did that because just knowing myself better now as I got older, I think if I would have gone to New York by myself at that age and the way I was then, it would have chewed me up and spit me out.
Yeah.
So I miss musical theater. I love it. I haven't done it in years, but I'm so glad I did not do that Broadway thing.
With the hindsight of that and the expertise and the experiences that you've had over the last 15, 20 years, would you see yourself going back to Broadway and feeling like you could actually hang well with that scene now?
I don't know. I mean, I definitely toy with that idea. Like whenever I'm in LA, so whenever there's, I see auditions for tours and stuff like that, I get excited. Oh, I could do that. I could do that. I want to do that. I miss it. I think it would be more along the lines of what I'm used to doing now, though, outside of Broadway, which is rock.
Yeah.
So if there was like, like the Green
Rock.
Day, if the Green Day American Idiot thing came through,
Sure.
I would love to do that.
You
I,
bet.
I feel like I could do that. I don't think I could do like um, like a Sondheim,
Right.
a
But
classic Sondheim. As much as I would love to, I just
sure.
think I'm not that singer anymore.
Sure.
And I think I would have to just go back and study a lot, and I just wouldn't be ready to do it. So if a more like modern, poppy
Sure.
rocky kind of thing came along, I would totally be into doing that.
Yeah. Rock of Ages would be.
Yeah, exactly.
Throw the
Exactly.
yeah. After having seen you and knowing the breadth and depth of your talent, I could, and just seeing the bravado that you have on stage. I love the idea that you're quiet and maybe reserved and shy off stage. And I see that, but the ability to light up when you get on stage and then be able to perform the way you do, that's certainly, lends well to the Broadway thing. So it'd be great to see it happen sometime, even if it's just a one-off, but Animotion, the band from the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah. Do I?
So I was in the band for like almost 16 years, right? And Bill Wadhams, our singer, is amazing in musical theater, and he's done local productions that floor me. I cannot believe how talented he is, and he actually scored a piece this last year for this musical production that was supposed to come out during the pandemic, and it's now on hold. But it was great to see, because he too has a persona on stage that is just magnified, right? When he gets the energy from the crowd and that's just where he's at home. And musical theater was like that for him. It was really cool to see a different side of him that I never expected, but I'm so proud to see that, and I think you've instructed a lot of students. We should talk a little bit about your education now, or at least your transition. Let's get to that point. But what I was going to say is the students that you have, to know about your aspirations and where you came from, and, the benefit of your evolution, I think is really special for them. It's not that you're instructing these students in a curriculum that's just sort of nebulous and you're just reading out of a book. This is life experience that you can also communicate with them about possibilities in their life and potential career gigs, and so you were glad that you did the band thing and it kept you away from the musical theater thing, but were you gigging around in Boston? Did you do some touring? And
We let's see what happened. One of the guys left and then was replaced. We had auditions for another singer-songwriter, guitarist, and so he joined the band. And so there was still the three singer-songwriters in the band. And yeah, we at that time in Boston, I thought Boston was going to be the next Seattle, because it seemed like all of the other bands that we were, playing in the Boston and New England the clubs with, it seemed like one after, like the week after another, they were all getting signed. So I thought we were next, because we were doing gigs and becoming friends with Letters to Cleo.
Okay.
The Gigolo I remember doing gigs with O Positive.
Okay.
Was Power Man 2? Was it
Power Man 5000. Yeah.
Yeah, those just all those. Oh, Juliana Hatfield. It's everyone was like, oh, there goes that band. There goes that band that we know. There goes that band. They're off. And it was like, okay, we're next. But it didn't. I don't know. It didn't quite happen that way. And so, we gigged a lot. I mean, we were in the, we moved into a house together. We would rehearse in the basement. We got this crappy old scary 70s van that would shake if you went over like 35 miles an hour, and be driving to like Rhode Island in the middle of the night doing. I mean, it was the typical, life of starving musicians.
And this is right out of Berkeley?
This is, it was pretty much right out of Berkeley. Yeah, I mean, we just kind of dove in. And I graduated in 91. And then I think we were just nonstop working hard at it, gigging all over the place from like Maine to New York. One of my favorite gigs though, and I'm proud to say we got to play CBGB's before it was closed down.
Right on.
That
Very
was a
cool.
big highlight for us.
You bet.
And yeah, so we would just I think the farthest we went was Maine, and then the most south we went was New York City, and everything in between, Rhode Island and Connecticut,
Okay.
and whoever would have us, and of course all the Boston places. Yeah, and so we were together from I think 91 to I want to say 94,
Okay. That's a good tenure.
94.
Yeah.
So it was, living, breathing, literally
Yeah.
living and breathing together, and it was all about our music, and we're gonna make it and all that stuff.
Jude was not yet married at that point.
Was not married.
Right.
Was not married. Yeah, I mean, we were all single and in our 20s, and yeah, it was a
Yeah.
great time. I think it was weird because we wanted to be, we were really into power pop, and we were really into big vocals and harmonies, and we loved a band called Jellyfish from
Oh
back
my
then,
God.
who
Amazing,
did
man.
who did all that stuff, and
Right.
came out at a time when grunge was big.
Right.
So we thought, well, if they could do it, we can do it, and we loved
Right.
it. But it just wasn't in the cards, because the mainstream, they didn't want the big poppy harmonies, even though we were like really loud
Yeah.
and had the loud guitars and all that. They didn't want the big Beatles,
Sure.
all that stuff, and Queen and all that kind of harmonies. So
What was that band called?
Atlas shrugged.
Okay. Did you release anything that got commercial success at all, or?
Just stuff there in town that would get
Okay.
played on the local radio stations, and we had a big following. We had a big following. People loved us. They just we weren't. It wasn't right for that time.
Sure.
I think if we would have stuck to it and hadn't just kind of fizzled apart, I think late 90s we could have had a shot. Just because
bet.
things were getting back to being more fun
Yeah.
in the late 90s with bands like No Doubt and
Right.
Smash Mouth and all that stuff. So who was it? Sugar Ray. I think we would have done better then, but we were all getting older and things were happening, and so bands fizzle apart, and that's what happened. So then I went solo
Okay.
and put out two releases of my own. Just same thing, just kind of like gung ho. It's all about me. It's all about me. It's all about me. And I was living in Boston, and I was doing cover band gigs on the weekend to pay the rent. And right before I moved out to LA, I did my first. I got hired for my first like vocal session where I was singing for like a commercial or a jingle or a song that was going to be in TV or film. I loved that.
Yeah. How did you get that gig?
I don't remember. No, I think it was word of mouth.
Okay.
I befriended a singer who did a lot of that stuff already in Boston, and they heard that some producer was looking for a guy, and she said, "Oh, you got to get Jude." So I went in and I did it. I loved it so much because for so much of the 90s, I had been all about me and my music,
Sure.
whether it was with the band or it was with my solo stuff, and it was just me, 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 me. This is how I want my song, and in the studio, it's like me, 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 me. It's gonna sound like this. I loved doing the session work because the pressure of me was gone.
Sure.
It's not my piece of music. It's not my piece of art. All I'm doing is getting hired to sing what this other person did, and then I leave. I get paid and I leave.
It's
they-
kind of
And they deal with the promotion.
Yeah.
They deal with the engineering and the production, all that stuff. I had never done that before, and it was such a great feeling and such a great experience. And I got great feedback from the producer saying, "Oh, you should do this more often." So it was right then, right before my wife and I moved out to LA, that I was like, "Yeah, I want to. If we go out to LA, I want to do more of this."
Yeah. What was the decision to go to LA? Why? What made you
We
feel
had felt like we had felt like we had done everything we could do musically in Boston.
Okay.
And she was pushing for the move more than myself because I was, I hate to admit it, but at that time of my life, you know, I was a Northeastern boy.
Sure.
And so I had this attitude towards West Coast
Yeah. Of
California
course.
people,
Yep.
bunch of tree hugging hippies.
It's a definite vibe for sure.
So you know, I was very not thrilled about the idea. But we would fly out and check it out. We came out like 3 or 4 times. Didn't know a lot of people out here, but just enough.
I was wondering if you had any kind of landing pad out here, you
We
know?
knew just enough people from our Berkeley days
Okay.
to kind of make us feel a little at home and a little at ease about coming out here because it was just like
Sure.
this big jump off a cliff.
Yeah.
And the real thing that because we were doing great in Boston, we had great jobs, we had great gigs, we were both making great money. We didn't want to. I think the clincher was we didn't want to wake up because I think we both turned 30. And we didn't want, I know it's like, that's the number
It is. Yep.
where this usually happens. We didn't want to wake up in Boston at 60 and go, I wonder what would have happened if we would have moved out to LA like we said we were going to do back then.
Yeah.
We didn't want that to happen. So that's what pushed us out, and we just went for it. And it was scary, really scary. I'd never done any kind of big life-changing move like that in my life, so I was terrified. She was
That's
nervous.
commitment.
Yeah, and we're both musicians, so we had that going for us because she knew the life, I knew the life. There wasn't anyone, you know, in the relationship that didn't understand why
Sure.
we were doing this. So yeah, so
Was it as exciting for her to come out and look at the musical pursuit as well?
oh yeah, she was more excited. She was more excited. I had the attitude until like the fourth time we came out. The fourth time we came out, I was like, I love it here.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm hoping that you went out during winters, right? So you could leave the Delaware winters where it was brutal, and then you get to
We were living in Boston.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but either way, Boston winters are tough, man. You get to LA and you get the sun and the palm trees, and you're like, okay.
Boston winters are tough. And the summers, before we moved out here, the summers were getting brutal in Boston.
Yeah, just the humidity. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, by the fourth time, I was excited. I'd been sold. I got seduced by the palm trees and all that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But it just felt like I mean, it's a shame that LA is this kind of place, but it did feel like this is where we're going to do this stuff that we want to do before we get too old. And it happened. I mean, I wish cities like Boston and maybe there's a bit of it in New York. You know, I wish there were cities other than LA that you know, all these big names, you know, come to and you can end up working with. I wish that could happen in other cities, but unfortunately it doesn't. So you know, I wouldn't have, you know, she wouldn't have ended up touring for years with Pink if we hadn't moved out here. She wouldn't have worked with Sheila E. You know, I wouldn't have. There's no way I would have sung with, you know, Steve Vai or Dave Navarro, or you know, I got to back up Bruce Springsteen and Joe Walsh at one time.
Oh my God.
I got to sing backgrounds for Bow Wow Wow from, you know, my teenage years.
Yeah.
That stuff. I mean, I love Boston, and you know, if all those artists would go to Boston, yeah, I would live there, but they don't, and so I'm glad we made the move. It's really panned out.
As it should. You know, you've got a friend, Patricia Beechin, and that has chimed in on the chat here. She said, you know, not only are you so talented, you have this versatile entertainment quality about you. So that's the truth. You know, when you went out there, did you feel comfortable in your own skin to be able to walk into a place like, say, Soundcheck Live and feel like, yeah, I can hold my own. I can walk on this stage and because it's different, right? When you move across the country, even though you're playing the same music that you might have played back home, it's just a different vibe. The attitude is different in the room. You're surrounded by professionals. That Soundcheck live gig is, it could be really intimidating to someone because the other musicians that are in the room are all top-notch players, right? I know the movie did the Wings tune. There are different versions. There's live versions and different, studio versions. And so we all went in just winging it. I remember thinking, okay, there were a couple of spots in the song that weren't perfect, but there was a lot of eye contact and a lot of intuition from players like Steve Feckety, knew where to go, man, when we were in this like section, and a lot of trust. It's tricky to walk in and never have met these people and have trust and respect on stage. And I wondered about that when you first came to LA. Did you feel like maybe there was a little chip on the shoulder from people that weren't receptive to you coming into their city? I know a lot of LA cats are really tired of people moving in, trying to move in on the gig. But did you feel that vibe when you first got there?
You know what? I only felt that at auditions.
Okay. So
yeah.
Did you hook up with like some of those through management or
yeah, I would get calls for auditions for singing background for artists that were going to do a tour, and I would only feel that from auditions.
Okay.
When I would go out into clubs and talk to other musicians and all that and say, hey, I just got here, blah blah blah, everybody was cool. It was really surprising.
Yeah.
I really thought it was going to be the opposite.
Right.
So going into the clubs and going to see people play, it was always people in the audience, the musicians in the audience, musicians who were on stage. Everybody was cool, always welcoming. Hey, it's great to have you here, blah, blah, blah. Welcome to LA. But it was the auditions where it gets weird and everyone wants the gig. And
right. Talk about those. The people that haven't done it might be a little surprised at how brutal those like cattle calls, right? You walk in with 50. Yeah.
Yeah. I hate auditions. Yeah. I'm just going to say it. I hate them. Sure. I don't know anyone that likes them. I mean, if they do, great, but I hate them.
No, I mean, the only thing, if you really needed to learn how to deal with some critical feedback and really develop thick skin, sure. I mean, if you're comfortable trying to work, but to me, that's like, going into a kickboxing gym with somebody that's going to just kick you upside the head all the time. And I love audition stories though. Jennifer Batten's audition story for her Michael Jackson gig was one that I thought, okay, this is, magical, and Glenn has given me some great audition stories over the years, some positive, some really negative, because he was kind of typecast early on as the metal guy. Mm-hmm. So he'd walk in for like a pop audition, there's a pop artist that needed a drummer and they'd say, oh, it's the double bass guy. We don't, and he'd say, tough to break through that wall, but did you have any like positive outcomes of some auditions that led to good gigs?
I think just being seen. Yeah. Being seen by the other, people who were there, the musicians who were playing for the backing vocalists for the audition, the people who organized the auditions.
Was it Barry Squire is doing
Barry Squire? Yeah, just being seen by those, like the players playing for the auditions, the people running the auditions. That helped. Kind of say, oh, this guy's in town now, that kind of thing. That helped.
New sheriff.
But back to your other thing about, being confident getting here. I wouldn't have been confident moving to LA if I had done it in the early 90s or late 90s even. I'm glad I did it when I did, because I like to back to your question, I would walk into a club or see someone playing here out in LA and I would think, yeah, I'm ready for this. Yeah. Let me up there. Get me up there, Right. But that wouldn't have happened. I don't think I would have been ready if I had done that. If I'd moved out here in the early 90s, in my 20s, I wouldn't be able to do that.
All right. Yeah. Again, this is stuff that it's really special for you to be able to teach your students now, not just the vocal instruction, but developing confidence and really understanding what it takes to get some of these things. So, I've alluded to the fact that you've been on the staff there as a vocal instructor at Musicians Institute. So how long have you been doing that?
I've been at MI, I think 10 years now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's part-time.
Yeah.
It's not like a full-time gig, but I'm part-time there. Sometimes I'll do stuff, out of my house, but not really. It's really turned into just the part-time thing at MI. Um, and I met a lot of great people and players there too.
Sure, you bet. Jeff Bowders, their drum instructor there, is a great friend, and he's a local guy from up
Yeah.
here. I think he's just a great, phenomenal instructor, but just a great human being too. And Jennifer Batten, an old alumni, she taught there at the GIT for quite a while, and
Right.
she's up here now.
Yeah.
I think Glenn Sobel, I think, was mostly LA Music Academy, but I think he may have gone back and forth to MI.
I think he was teaching drums for a minute there at MI. Yeah.
I think so too. Yeah.
Now he's rocking out with Alice Cooper.
Alice Cooper and the Hollywood Vampires, and none of us are rocking out right now. We're all hanging out waiting for gigs, but
Yeah.
I'm very proud of him. You talked about going to the clubs and meeting people for the first time and having them welcome you in. One of the first times that I hit the clubs, not that long ago, but I was playing with Animotion, and we did a TV thing for NBC called Hit Me Baby One More Time. It's kind of like a one-hit wonder band competition. So Animotion, Juice Newton,
Yeah.
PM Dawn, I think Missing Persons. It was a strange combination of bands that all competed against each other. But Glenn came out to our performance, and then he said, "Hey, let's go out on the town." So we hit the Rainbow and the Roxy and the Cat Club and all the venues, and I was amazed to watch his interaction with people. And you know this about him, but Glenn is one of those guys that he can get along with anybody. He does not disparage anyone. He'll walk into a room and he'll shake hands with someone. He'll actually spend the time to listen to them and talk and have a real conversation. And he's not the kind of guy that will walk up the ladder, push you down to try and get after a gig. And it's one of the reasons I'm really proud of him for having gotten the gigs that he has, because he's earned every bit of them with his talent and with his networking without, being, sort of manipulative and vindictive. And I love that. I loved watching his maneuvering through the room and the regard that people had for him, the respect his talent, but also him as a human being. And so, in a short time when you and I played together at Soundcheck Live, I got that vibe from you too. I got the vibe that you were, I just didn't see conceit or pretentious vibe at all. You really nailed it musically, and it was fun to watch from the back. You were playing this stage. I don't know how much that Soundcheck Live holds. It's probably like 500 or 600. It's not huge, but you were playing it like an arena. You worked it like it was 100,000 people out there, and it was fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I do. I guess it's that that preteen when I started, just up in my room, pretending to sing and all that. And I think that is still in me when I get on stage. And it's just what I do. I used to have people tell me, like, you're in a small club, don't do that.
Really?
Yeah. I'm like, why?
Yeah, right. Well, I know it made an impression on me, but I think people that go to that gig in particular, it's kind of like them getting to witness an arena show in a small venue, and an arena show with all-star players.
Exactly.
That's
they're getting to watch people who do play in arenas.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, for free.
Yes. Yes.
Like you talked about a little bit of your other experiences, like backing up Bruce Springsteen and your wife playing with Pink. And how was her experience as she got to LA? How was her ability to navigate and maneuver to get these gigs? Did she have contacts or representation, or what was her experience like?
What's funny? When we moved here, I was the rock guy, and she studied jazz piano at Berkeley.
Okay.
And even before that. And so the first year we get to LA, I get a jazz gig, and she gets the Pink rock star gig.
So wait a minute. Pink was her first gig in LA?
I think. No, it wasn't her first. It wasn't her first, but that was the first,
name gig.
Big name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just funny. It's like, of course, I'm the rock guy. I get the jazz gig. And not to downplay that, because that was
Of course
awesome. And
not. Yeah.
that gig, I was with, you wouldn't, if I listed the names that were part of this jazz gig, that actually ended up on an album and a DVD, and I think was nominated for a Grammy. It was like
Wow.
2004. It was called The Hang. And
Okay.
it was by Don and Dave Grusin.
Okay. Oh, wow.
But I mean, the Abel Boreal Sr.,
Oh,
Nathan East,
wow.
just ridiculous, like
Cats.
top of the line session guys who we grew up listening to
Yeah.
on albums, but just doing all these amazing jazz things. And I got that gig singing backgrounds on that.
How?
And
How did you get that gig?
how did I get that gig? I think a friend
Of
who had
course.
already been here and worked with the Grusin brothers,
Okay.
said we need a male background vocalist for this show coming up, and we're going to
Okay.
film it. And it's going to be on a DVD, and it's going to be a CD. And she said, "Oh, you should get Jude CROSSEN." So I think that's how I got it. I mean, that was years ago, but that's how I got it. So I ended up in a jazz gig with all these incredible jazz artists, and then my wife, who studied jazz piano, ends up playing keyboards for one of the biggest pop rock stars around.
Yeah.
Um,
Good gig.
but between the two of us, we had both gone to Berkeley College at different times. I went before her; she went after
Okay.
me. So between the two of us and our contacts there, who came out here, we just kind of reached out and said, "Hey, everybody, we're here. What can you tell us? Is there a gig?" Like just reconnecting with those old Berkeley, fellow students, and that's kind of how it just kind of snowballed from there. Um,
That's a
and
beaut. I love that.
yeah,
I'm-
I was really uh, touched and pleasantly surprised to have um, that kind of help. That just yeah, welcome to
Yeah.
LA. Here's what we've been doing. If we can help you out, we will. Oh, you should look into this place and that. Talk to that person, and here's some numbers and all that stuff. It was so great. Because you just came out here not knowing anybody really.
Oh man. So tell me about the MI experience then. When you're a new student at MI, and you sign up to do the vocal program, are there what is there a specialty that you teach there? Is there, you know,
Um, I teach, well, if you do private lessons with me, I do a lot of like basic technique and, breathing and, warm ups and what to do and what not to do when you're singing. I like working with beginners.
okay.
I like working with people who haven't had uh, vocal training before. I just do. Um, and I also get a lot of people who come to me because they want to learn how to do the rock singing, the edgy singing
Yeah.
without hurting their voice and all that. So I do a lot of that. I also teach performance classes for singers where, each week everybody in the class has to do the same song, and, learn it note for note and rhythm for rhythm and all that. And I help them with, how to perform on stage, how to work with a band, um,
Real
all
life
that stuff.
experience. Yeah, this is beyond just for the formal vocal training, but actually the interaction and the sort of performance thing is really, it's great to know that that's part of the curriculum. Is there any kind of placement opportunity for MI students when they get out to get maybe, like, excuse me.
Uh, does that mean the show's over?
It doesn't actually. That is one of my guests though. Do you know Melvin Brannon?
Hmm, I don't know.
Melvin is this incredible bass player, plays with Booker T and the MGs. He was in a band in the 80s, 90s called the Dan Reed Network. That's phenomenal. They toured with the Stones and Bon Jovi, and he's coming up shortly. So I thought you might know him because he's an LA cat and he's a monster player, man. So anyway, I was thinking about like the placement and like kids that finish the program, but then they have all these skills, but don't yet really know how to go out and network to get a gig. Is there any sort of job placement in the music industry that they can look forward to?
You mean from MI?
Yeah.
I think there is a place and a group of people who they can talk to about that stuff. I have never been there or worked in that area at the
Okay.
school, but I do believe that there are staff members who do that kind of thing and kind of help them before they leave. Kind of
Okay.
set them in the right direction if they want that kind of
Sure.
advice and help.
Well, let me ask you, like a particular student, say, do you have a student that comes in that you think, okay, there's a ton of natural talent here. This person has it, the thing, right? They've got the voice. I can see them with a personality. I think if a gig came up that I think they'd be right for, are you in that position to make the recommendations to say, you know, because obviously you've been there long enough that you've got a lot of connections.
Well, no, they have like we mentioned Barry Squire earlier.
Yeah.
He puts together a lot of big auditions here in LA for tours.
Right.
And he also works at MI.
Oh,
Yeah, and
okay.
and so he will send emails to teachers saying, "Hey, I need, someone who looks like this and is this age, can sing this style. Send them to the, can you give me their name and info and send them." So yeah, we do that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's always interesting to me to think about all these people that are in LA trying to do the hustle and what additional things that they might be able to get through the school that they couldn't get on their own. But there's a question about your auditions. Actually, Catherine Cluth asks, when you go to these auditions, do you have to like prepare pieces of your own or do you have to learn a song? So I guess I could frame that question. When you get an audition for, say, background vocals for Springsteen tour, I'm sure that audition process is learn these 3 songs, be able to perform when you walked in, right? And you do a portion of those 3 just so that they get a vibe of what am I right?
Yeah, no, they give you the songs to learn. A lot of times though, and this is what drives me nuts about LA, it's very last minute.
Oh, really? Yeah, like tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That I don't understand. I don't know if that's just them trying to weed out the weak,
right.
or it's just, it's so sunny that everyone's just kind of like, we'll get to it whenever, that kind of thing. I don't know what it is, but that's always driven me nuts about how things get done out here in LA. And
Yeah.
it goes the same way with TV and film, and it just seems like it's just so last minute.
Yeah,
So yeah, you'll get the songs that they want you to sing. You have to learn them right away, and then show up and do them.
wow, I can't imagine the pressure that would be, but for the Soundcheck live stuff that you did, when Steve Ferlazzo said you came in and you did like a Billy Joel song or something, and he said, "Wow, okay, so we need Jude to be our Billy Joel guy," and then somebody else had asked if you could do the Billy Idol thing, and he said, "Oh wow, Jude nailed the Billy Idol thing. We got to keep him for the Billy Idol stuff." And then they did like U2 or Elton John or like McCartney or whatever, and Steve realized there's really nothing that this guy can't do.
Wow, I
There's
don't know
pure
about that.
well, there's like the pure vocals, there's the rasp that you talked about,
Hmm.
that sort of raspy stuff. And I was fortunate to get to do kind of both of those with you. I mean, there was a little bit of that in the,
Hmm.
maybe I'm amazed McCartney really, like stretches out in that
I love
and
singing that song.
amazing. Yeah, really, I have goosebumps when I watch it. But is there an opportunity for you? I asked Kenny Aronoff, I said, "What's your dream band?" I mean, you've played with everybody on the planet. If you had to put together your favorite bass player, singer, keyboardist, uh, guitarist, and he said, "Well, bass player and singer would be the same guy. It'd be Sting for sure." And you mentioned doing a Sting song earlier on for your early day performances. Do you have a particular heroic singer figure now that may not be Daryl Hall that you think I would gladly replace him if he were to pass on? Or, the way when Freddie passed, right? And Adam Lambert is the new Queen
Mm.
rep.
So, I see what you're saying. I think you too.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Oh yeah,
I mean, I don't want Bono to ever pass away, but
sure.
I mean, he's one of the reasons I got into this. But if there was a band that I could be singer,
Yeah.
that would be one.
Sure.
That would be one. Yeah, because
I
they're one of my favorites.
just, that band, although, of course, Bono is such an iconic front man.
Hmm.
That band is one of those groups that really, when you dig into the complexity of the music, they really are an ensemble, that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yep.
They for sure. I mean, Edge is a huge part of that sound. Very understated, soft spoken, probably underrated in a lot of
Hmm.
respects. And,
Hmm.
like I have so much more respect for that band over time as I understand music more. And I may not have given them so much credit. But actually, you know what? It was really seeing them live that did it for me. And a lot of bands are like that. I never had mad respect for Springsteen until I saw him live. And then it floored me. I saw everything about what everybody else already knew. 3 hours nonstop. There were no breaks between songs. There's no set list. They had a different set every night. He just call it out. And he gave 100% from the beginning of the set to the end of the set. And then buddies of mine ran into him in the hotel lobby the next morning, working out at 6 a.m. on the gym, and they said, yeah, he played until like almost midnight last night. And at 6, he's in there pumping iron, and was gracious enough to share the weights with him, So I love those stories,
Hmm.
but
And
Bono,
he turned 70 this year.
that's ridiculous, dude.
Yeah, no,
How can,
he's a big inspiration to me, always has been. But between songwriting and, just like you said, performing, if ever there was a person who was meant to be on stage performing, just go watch him.
yeah. Well, you know what?
Because
That's the same thing about you though. Don't you feel like you're at this position right now when you see these shows at Soundcheck Live and you say, okay, that person was put on this planet to play music, to play drums, to be a performer, to be a lead singer. All the people that are chiming in on the chat all know about your voice and your road to LA and how you had this gift early on. It's a testament to your family upbringing. It sounds like it's great that they were inspirational to introduce you to different styles and different music early on. And I think you're the right person to be teaching the class at MI, these students, because you had the road to get there, and it seems like you've maintained a good head on your shoulders. What is this outlook for you? Well, first, we're in the midst of a pandemic, right? Everybody's kind of struggling with not gigging right now. But one thing I have noticed is a lot of people I talk to find some silver linings. They've been able to do something creative and find some sort of source of productive time to so that they don't go crazy, whether that be staying off social media or, learning a new trade. How's this been for you? Have you been able to find anything that you could shift and maybe focus your time on to be productive?
well, how much time we have left, and I don't want to end, on a dark note. But when this all went down, I was in a bad place. I was really depressed.
Sure.
After the second week of that lockdown in March, I saw where this was going, and it just hit me. And I had a lot of days where I didn't want to get out of bed,
You bet.
and things just looked grim.
Yeah.
And I started to have this feeling. I started seeing people, fellow musician friends, singing online and doing those videos and all that stuff. And it was the first time ever in my life, ever, where I didn't want to sing. And
Sure.
I started questioning myself. I would say to my family, it's like, is there something wrong with me? Because I see them performing and singing through all this. I don't want to sing right now.
Yeah.
You
No.
know, it took a long time for me to pull myself out of that and start to feel like, okay, maybe I'll sing soon.
Yeah.
you know, um, I mean, I said no to a lot of friends who were trying to do stuff online. I just didn't have it in me. I felt awful.
Yeah.
But like I said, like it's starting to go away. And I actually am starting to get to the point where I really miss singing.
Oh,
And I have started to sing a bit. Haven't put anything out online yet, but I think we were, I don't know if it was like a month in, and my wife, who was also dealing with this,
Yeah.
she signed us up for this weekend, this online weekend with Deepak Chopra.
You went?
So you could do it from your home,
Yeah.
right?
You did
So
it.
so so she signed us up for that, and he had all these great little lectures of different people speaking, and they would have like uh, uh, yoga sections, and they would have teachers come on and meditate with you and all this stuff. And we did it for the whole weekend, and I felt my brain felt so much better after that.
Oh, wow.
And I told her, I was like, my brain needed this like 3 weeks ago,
Right.
you know? So stuff like that has helped us, helped me. I try to get outside of the house whenever I feel like I'm going cuckoo.
Yeah.
The thing I've loved is, when they said, oh, you shouldn't leave your house. I said, well, they didn't say, you can't drive. So
Right.
I would get in my car and I would just drive down to the ocean and just drive down the PCH,
Yeah.
and I would start to feel better. It's like, okay, I'm not, in a cell. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm, I'm I'm not in a bubble.
Right.
There's this whole giant world still out there, and there's a lot of people going through this, and we're all in this together. So it's just like that kind of thing. I would just try to do that stuff and talk to people, call family members, that kind of thing, just to check in, and that would
Jude,
make me feel better.
I have to tell you, man, you're the first person I've talked to that articulated the way I felt about playing. I not only thrive, but I depend on that interaction I have with people on stage. I have to have it.
Mm.
I hadn't played drums in 5 months since my last gig was the last week of February up in Canada, and I did a recording with the guitarist from the Romantics about
Mm.
8 years ago, and he never put it out. So he called me up a couple weeks ago and said, "Hey man, we're doing a music video for that song. Finally, we're going to release it, and you want to come down and play drums in the video?" So the only drumming that I've done in 5 months was to sit in for this video session where I wore a mask and I was in this room with him, and it was therapy for sure because I was in a room playing his music for a couple of hours, but I didn't understand how that feeling was too. I couldn't articulate to people because they said, you've got drums in your house. Why don't you play? But that's not where I want to play.
Mm.
I need to be around band members and people. You're the first person I've talked to who has said that, articulated it, and gets it. And I felt that same thing, man. You feel like you're sort of coming apart at the seams, or your things don't make sense. And
No, I
yeah,
felt like there was something wrong with me after all these years of being an artist, of being a performer, a musician, and then seeing other people doing it through all
yeah,
of this. I felt like maybe I shouldn't be a singer. Maybe I
right,
shouldn't be a musician because I don't want to sing right now. I don't want to perform. I
yeah,
can't. Is there something wrong with me? I felt like a failure
sure,
because I feel like, well, we're the ones that should be doing this right now to lift everybody else up.
right.
I couldn't do it.
You bet.
Um,
That's real though. I mean, that is full on real raw emotion. That's amazing that you and your wife were able to do this together. The Deepak Chopra weekend is probably could benefit a lot of people right now. I mean, because people are coming apart at the seams in a lot of the ways. And you and I talked offline about just removing ourselves from some social media because it is toxic. I just listened to this amazing podcast. Joe Rogan put together this podcast Thursday with this this neurologist who was speaking about neuroplasticity and how you have to how your brain evolves depending on the input that you put in. So if you're always looking at toxic social media stuff and you're reading the news and you're seeing crises and reading about deaths and viral things, what you're putting in is something that's not only, your brain is not accommodated, it's not accustomed to dealing with that. So all that chaos and that pressure ends up becoming anxiety and does really bad things to your self-worth, you know. And it's no surprise, you know, that you felt like a failure because life was failing you at that point, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I I I too, I mean, it's a social media thing. It's kind of a curse and a blessing for me. I can introduce people to this podcast through social media. It's the way that I always promoted my gigs. It's the way I stay in touch with my family in Montana. But being able to easily get to what you need from social media and then turn it off is so important, you know? And for me, you know, I was grateful that you were able to come out of the cocoon a little bit. Steve is doing the same thing. Ferlazzo said the same thing, man, you know, that it, because it doesn't make sense and you can't really put it into a box, it's almost, I don't know, it's humiliating a little bit to admit that the thing that you're put on this planet to do is not inspiring you to be able to get up every day, you know? And so the weight of it is really, really heavy. Thank God for your wife, man, and for you guys to be able to kind of go through that at least together so you can understand. And then that workshop sounds amazing, man.
Yeah.
And honestly, the PCH, man, is therapy in and of itself, you know?
Yeah.
Just driving up to, you know, just see that. I just, I wish I had that, but I have mountains and, you
Yeah,
know,
no, I mean, not to, I mean, I think anybody can do it. I'm sure there's beautiful places wherever you live in this country that
yeah,
you could just get out of your house, go for a drive, go to that part that you think is beautiful and just drive through there and get out of your head, you know, realize that there is there is still this giant world out there with other people that feel like you and, um,
yeah.
you know, it's a good thing to do. I recommend it highly.
Just that part of our lives on pause. But you're right. Being able to talk about that with people that get it is really important. You have no idea how much I appreciate you acknowledging what it did for you, you know, because
Yeah.
yeah, it's strange. Again, it doesn't make sense in a lot of ways, you know, what's going on. But um, I think, you know, you recognizing it from the Deepak Chopra workshop and then putting that into action, you know, getting outside your space a little bit. You mentioned that you're just doing a little bit of recording right now. I think, is it stuff that you're putting out of your own? Is this like compositions that you've been writing, your own music?
Did I say I'm recording?
Well, you said that you're just starting to sing again. So I was wondering
Oh,
if
I'm
you're
just starting
actually,
to sing. Oh yeah, no, no, not
okay.
recording, but just sing.
Yeah.
Like sing, like grab an instrument and just start singing for fun.
Yeah.
I'm
Do you have a,
just starting
do you have a
to do
go-to?
that. Huh?
Do you have a go-to that can kind of bring your spirit up a little bit?
Yeah.
What is that?
What, you want me to sing it?
If you want to.
Is that how you want to end? We could do it like that.
I love it, man. Honestly, it would do me so good to hear your voice again, you know?
Okay.
That would be fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think yeah, that'd be a good way to end. Because this is a an uplifting song.
Good. And I'll also mention one of the people on the chat said, this is Shrieking Violet, says, Jude is amazing and wonderful as a human as he is a musician. So glad we became friends all those years ago. Talking to you guys during this pandemic is healing. So that is the hope, man. This is beyond a distraction. It really is an opportunity for us to just focus on positive stuff that we have within our control. And I'm grateful to people like you, Jude, that will, you know, sort of open yourself up, open your family and your household up there to just give us a peek at you, you know?
Thanks for having me. I'm glad I could do it. I was really excited when you asked. I love podcasts. I've been listening to podcasts more than watching TV. I'd say in the last few years, really.
Me too.
I think they're great. I think you learn a lot. I think it's because people just talk and there's no interruptions and you can take your time and
Yeah.
you can get to the real deal.
Yeah.
Whereas on TV, if you're interviewed, they have like 3 minutes. You got to be
Right.
funny and you got to look good and all this stuff. And then it's like, okay, we got to go.
Yeah.
So I that's why I love them. I was so psyched to have you ask me and this be my first podcast.
Is it?
But
Wow. Well, I'm honored to have you as like a guest, as you were first. This is great. It'll be archived. It'll be out there for the world to see on YouTube and my website and everything as well. So,
yay.
Ophi Latman says he's excited to hear your voice. So what are we going to hear from you today?
Okay, let me get my note. I got my piano here somewhere.
All right.
Where is it? All right. I'm going to do a Prince song that I've always loved. I think it's my favorite Prince song. And it wasn't a single. If there are any true Prince fans out there, I think most of us would agree that Sign of the Times is our favorite Prince album. And this song is from Sign of the Times. And it's a really simple little song. It's I'm going to do it a cappella.
Awesome.
I might even just like tap on my leg here for the beat. Because even on the original recording, it's really stripped down. It's just it's like vocal, a drum beat, and barely like bass and guitar. It's really stripped down and just a really beautiful song. And it's called "Forever in My Life."
Oh, beautiful.
And I sang it. He's one of my ultimate favorite. Ever since I discovered him. Yeah, you too. Ever since I discovered him, when I think it was 82 or 83 when Little Red Corvette came out.
Yeah, 1999.
Yeah, and then of course I went back and checked out all the albums before he became big. But ever since that moment, he has constantly been an inspiration to me as a musician, as a singer, as a performer, mostly, just constantly doing new things and trying new things. So I loved him. And I guess I'm telling you all this because after he passed away, the day he passed away, I got on social media and I had to do something to let it out. And so I sang this song the day he passed away. So I'm going to do it again for you, but I just love singing it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
My all-time favorite artist.
Remember everybody out there, I'm rusty. I have not been singing since March, but we'll see how it goes.
What a gift. Thank you for
Let me
this.
get my note. Where's my note? All right. Here we go. There comes a time in every man's life he gets tired, fooling around, juggling hearts in three-ring circus. Someday drives the body down to the ground. I never imagined that love would rain on me and make me want to settle down. Baby, it's true, I think I do. And I just want to tell you that I want to with you, yeah. And baby, if you do too, oh, forever, forever. Baby, I want you forever. I want to keep you for the rest of my life. All that's wrong in my world, baby, you can make it right. You are my savior, you are my light. Forever I want you in my life. There comes a road in every man's journey, a road that leads a man to walk on his own. I'm here to tell you that I'm on that road. I'd rather walk with you than walk it alone. You are my hero, you are my future. When I'm with you, baby, I have no past, no, baby. My one and only desire is to find some way this doggone world to make this feeling last. No, baby, it's true. I know I do, yeah. And I just want to tell you that I want to with you, yeah. Baby, if you do too, oh, forever, forever. I want you, baby, babe, forever. I want to keep you for the rest of my life. All that's wrong in my world, baby, you can make it right. You are my savior. You are my life. Forever I want you in my life.
Oh my God. Incredible, man.
Thank you, Prince.
Oh, thank you, Prince. Thank you, Jude Crossen. That was exactly what I needed today, brother.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, man. What a
You're
gift.
welcome.
A whole bunch of people out there are clapping, saying wow in the chat. I'll get this up on kevinrankin.com. And Jude, thank you so much for blessing me with your gift, dude. Really, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me to do this.
Next time, and I hope Steve Ferlazzo sees this, next time I can get down there, we do Soundcheck Live. You and I have got to do a Prince song together, man. It would be
okay.
Amazing. It'd be amazing. How about you, me, Steve, and Nuno? How's that? Awesome. Good. I love you, man. Thank you so much, buddy. And completely stay healthy so that we can get back to rocking again. Thank your wife too for sharing you for the afternoon. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Got to get back to the family.
Do it. Jude Crossen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to 5 Star Guitars for sponsoring this whole thing. Thank you everybody for being here on the chat. And I will see you soon, my friend. Stay healthy.
Cool. You too.
Be good humans. See ya.